Hello, this is Tom Stimes with Kirk Consulting, and I'm going to give a demonstration of a very useful tool in X3 that is not widely known, doesn't seem to get turned on very often, but it's very useful information it provides, and there's really almost no cost to set this up and start using it. So I'm going to give an example of how we activate this tool and then analyze some of the results from this tool. And this is called the Cash Forecast in X3. And we're looking at a dashboard of the results of our cash forecast analysis. So this is just one example of how we can use this tool. And what this is showing is for each company, it's showing my bank balance, month one, month two, month three, month four. You can see over here in this situation, we have negative bank balance projected, and it's getting a larger balance each month for my bank or my company NA10, which is this line down here. So you can see each month our cash forecast is, or at month end of month one, goes negative 2.8 million and negative 3.4 million. So X3 is looking at all the open documents in X3, all the open AR, AP, sales orders, purchase orders, figuring out when those sales orders are going to ship or when you're going to receive those purchase orders into your facility, estimate the invoice date, and they look at the payment terms on those documents to see when the cash will be coming into your company or leaving your company, and then making an entry in the forecast for that document. So it analyzes all those documents and then figures out what your bank balance is going to be. And it also lets you do manual adjustments when you have things outside of X3 like property tax payments, payroll, those types of things. And we'll show you how to set that up. So anyway, this is one of the end results of our cash forecast, but let's go in and look at what we need to do to actually start using the cash forecast. So I'm going to talk about three different areas today. I'm going to talk about the setup, what we need to do to have X3 generate our cash forecast. So there's really two things involved with that. We have to set up a cash forecast type, and what that is showing or telling X3 what kind of documents we want to use in our cash forecast. And so let's go look at that quickly. So I'm going to go into my cash forecast types, and that's under Setup, AP Accounting, Cash Forecast Type. And for each company, or actually each site within my company, if I have different bank accounts at each site, we can set up what kind of documents we want to include in our cash forecast. For example, you may want to include sales quotes inside of your cash forecast, but if you don't have a high probability, or if your quote conversion is pretty low percentage, you may not want to use quotes in your cash forecast. You have the ability to go in and determine what items you want to include in your cash forecast, and usually the ones we really talk about will be quotes and possibly purchase requests that have not been converted to purchase orders yet. Sometimes you might exclude those. But basically, we need to set up this kind of document, or this, this document for each company that we want to do a cash forecast for. So that's step one. And then the other thing we have to do is we have to set up some parameters in X3 to tell X3 how we want our cash forecast to behave. And the biggest need to do that is to set up a default bank account. So X3 does this down to the bank account level. And if I go into general parameters, AP, AR setup, we have to create an entry in here for each company. Inside of this company is a cash management section. So we're going to look at those parameters. And what there is in here is a default bank account. So in X3, you can tie a bank account to a business partner, either a customer or supplier. And if you tie a bank account to the supplier or the customer, X3 uses that in the cash for generation. Most people don't do that. You have your normal lockbox or your normal operating cash account that you're paying out of, and so you don't really tie different accounts to business partners. So you need to come in here and set up a default bank account for the cash forecast to use. So any business partner that does not tie it to a specific bank account, we would use this bank account as our default or our general bank account for cash forecast. So you need to put something in here. And I'll just mention one other thing down here, like there is an option for percentage of sale quotes. On the sales quotes, you can put a percentage of, or probability of conversion to a sales order. And you can put a number in here that if my probability of conversion is less than 50%, it would not bring those sales quotes into my cash forecast. So basically you can put a filter on sales quotes of how probable they are. Say I only want sales quotes that have at least an 80% probability of success. Well, I can put 50% in there, then it will not bring all sales quotes in, just ones over 50%. So those are our basic two setup items that we need to do, and that's all there is really to start generating that cash forecast, is to create that forecast type and then to set this parameter, this default bank account. Once those two things are done, let's go back here. Those are one-time only things. Once those two things are done, I don't need to do the setup again, so that's pretty much done. Well, now I need to start generating my cash forecast. I have X3 looking at all my open documents and then converting those into a cash forecast record. And there's a tool in X3, it's under APAR Accounting, Open Items, Cash Forecast Generation. I can go and run that whenever I want. Typically what we do though is we set up that cash forecast generation as a scheduled task, and we run that automatically every night. So every night at midnight, we'll go ahead and generate your cash forecast for you, so you don't have to do that. But you could always do that manually if you wanted to. If you had some sales orders entered or a bunch of POs entered and you want to look at the impact on cash, you could manually go and do this, and it takes a few minutes to run depending on how many open documents you have in the system. And then you could look at your cash forecast after doing that. But typically that's a overnight automatic thing, so you don't need to do anything typically. Now there is something you probably would do at least on a monthly, possibly quarterly basis, and that's your manual adjustments. So all your cash requirements, cash coming in, cash going out, are not always generated from X3 documents. You have payroll, which is outside of X3. You have property tax payments. You might have other income coming in that's not coming in from a sales invoice. You might just do a journal entry for that, but if you know that's going to be hitting your bank's accounts, you can go in and make manual adjustments. And these manual adjustments could be a one-time adjustment, or you can have recurring manual adjustments, and payroll is a perfect example. If you're a bi-weekly payroll, you can set up a manual adjustment that every 2 weeks you're going to take out, $500,000 out of your bank account for payroll-related activity. So you can set that up and have that automatically impact your cash forecast. So let's go look at these two tools in X3 real quick. So I'm going to jump back over to X3. I'm going to close out this parameter page. We didn't change anything. I was just showing where the default bank account was. And now let's go in and actually do a cash forecast generation. So I have a little bookmark up here, but to show where that's at on the menu, let's go into the menu, APAR Accounting, Open Items, Cash Forecast Generation. And this is the tool that will look at all the open documents and generate a cash forecast. So I can just put in, let's generate out to the end of the year. I could go beyond the end of the year, but let's just stop there. And then this is bringing in from my cash forecast type setup. It's bringing up all the documents I typically do. If I didn't want to include all these documents, I could turn them off, but I wouldn't do that because this is what my default settings are. So I'm just going to hit OK. Those will run for a second. And then we will have an updated cash forecast. And it kind of gives me a log here. We had 8 open purchase orders that are brought in for 1.003 million. We have 5 purchase receipts that have not been invoiced yet. We didn't bring any sales quotes in. We had 7 sales orders, etc., etc. So it's kind of giving me a summary of what it found. So that just generated our cash forecast. So that's the automatic tool that we typically run every night to update your cash forecast from new sales orders, new purchase orders, received cash, cash payments, etc. Let's do a manual adjustment now. So that's kind of in the same area. It's just called cash forecast management. And this is where we can go in and do our manual entries. And so this is also showing all the entries that pulled in from our generation. It's showing us all our purchase orders in the system. I've been working with company NA10. So these are all our open documents that make up our cash forecast. So here's an automatic entry for this purchase order, and I can go look at this and see what my business partner is. Here's my purchase order number. Here is my supplier number, and then the accounting date for this, etc., etc. And I can zoom, which would drill into this document if I wanted to. But the point is that this is all the items that make up our cash forecast. And down here it's saying that we expect that we are going to pay for this product on November 27th. So the purchase order is this date. We must be receiving it on this date, and the terms are 30 days. So 30 days after this document date is assuming we're going to pay for this, which would be November 27th. What I wanted to show in here though is we do have some forecast types which are called user types, and these are my manual adjustments. These do not get replaced when I do that generation. My user types are manually entered out there by me and they stay there. So what I did in here was I created a manual adjustment for a Christmas bonus. I'm gonna give my employees some money on Christmas. So on 12/24, I created this Christmas bonus and I said we are going to pay $100,000. This could be for if you know you have a property tax payment coming up in a certain month, you could put that in here. Christmas bonuses obviously would be another example. Capital acquisition, maybe you're planning some capital purchase, you could put these in here as part of your cash forecast. But the other thing that's useful in here is the recurring. So this is a one-time only thing. I just entered in there. There's no frequency. I just pay it. But like payroll is something that you would set up for and I did this, I think bi-weekly. Yeah, every 2 weeks. So here's my payroll entry. It's an expense. My dollar amount, I'm saying I'm going to pay $250,000 every 2 weeks. And then down here, I can see my schedule. Every 2 weeks, I'm going to have $250,000 coming out of my checking account. And X3 will keep on using these manual adjustments in my cash forecast until I change these, delete these, or it goes beyond the end of my schedule. And again, like I said, you might come in and adjust this payroll entry maybe quarterly, possibly monthly. With headcount changes, this amount might change, so you'd come in and do that. But that's how you enter your manual adjustments that you know are upcoming that are going to affect your banking position. So those are the two things. Let me go back and look at that. So those are the two things that happen. Number one, the automatic generation is an automatic thing that happens daily typically. I don't need to do that. And your manual adjustments you might do monthly or quarterly to adjust what you know is going to be affecting your banking position outside of normal X3 transactions. So then the last thing is really just our analysis, and we can use this any day. It should be up to date if we're running the generation automatically every night. So we can just go in and look at our cash position anytime we want. So let's go and show how we use that tool. I have a bookmark up here for cash flow position, and that is to show you where that's on the menu. I go back into APA, our accounting. I come down to inquiries, and then here's my banking position is what it's called here. Cash flow position, banking position. So here's my banking position. I choose my company. I have to choose a bank account. Now, if I have multiple bank accounts within a company, I can create a group and then show my position for the entire group. So it depends on how you're using bank accounts, how if I'm going to look at it at individual bank accounts or the entire company, but you have a couple choices there. And there's some settings in here that you can play with. You can look at this daily position, weekly, monthly. Let's just change this to weekly. And then our detail level. We can just do totals all the way across. I like to do the forecast type, and I'll show you what that does. And then I click on search. We're starting from today's date and going out to February 3rd. So here's what it typically looks like. So we have our bank balance on top, and then we have all our activity below that. And you can see out here, we don't have much activity for the next couple of weeks. We do have this payroll entry. Remember the manual forecast we entered? See that $250,000? Every other week we're taking that out of our bank account. That was our manual entry. But all these other entries are coming from existing X3 documents. Here's my purchase orders. So in purchase orders, X3 is saying in week 48, which I think was the middle of November, end of November, we're going to have to pay out $2.3 million. We also have receipt notes, which would be receipts not invoiced that we're going to have to pay out for $2.1 million. And then we have some sales orders, some deliveries, etc., etc. All that stuff is coming in. So our bank balance, taking all that into account, should be $1.9 million. And then, we kind of see these other transactions. And notice out here, week 52, this was Christmas week. We had our Christmas bonus. And so not only do we have our payroll entry, we also have that $100,000 Christmas bonus we were doing. And that takes our bank balance down to $1.3 million. I can click on this over here, and that shows that in my graph down below. So I can graph whatever I want. I usually graph the bank balance just to see my trend line here, which is kind of useful. And then I can see my totals down here as well by week. So this is how we use the banking position. And of course, we can always take all this information right out to Excel by clicking on Excel and exporting all that. And then I can do whatever I want with that information. A couple other things on here. We did the forecast type summary. We also go to the document type and then hit on search. And of course, this could be quite large because we could have thousands of open documents. But that's when I might start playing with these. If I really want to look at those purchase orders that are going on, then I could go and click on just show purchase order and not show everything. But you see, I would see all my purchase orders out here at this point. If I was really searching for something like that or seeing what's going on or what's eating up all that cash, I'd probably go back to my manual adjustment screen, and then in my left list I can search for certain things if I wanted to. But and of course with this I could start changing my periods too, so I can go out monthly if I want to, search by that. This is assuming that I have sales orders, purchase orders out into the future planned, or sales forecast or something like that. But you have to figure out what kind of buckets you want and how far out in the future you want to look. But this will do like a 12-month or 12 period bucket down here in the grid, so you can do daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you prefer. And of course the last option here for this would be just the total. It just gives me a total line across here. Bank balance, previous items. Now previous items would be items that are overdue, things that should have closed before today that didn't. So in my demo data I have a lot of open AP, open AR that hasn't been closed out yet. And so that's why I have a lot of previous open items. Hopefully your business doesn't have a lot of that. You're paying on time, your customers are paying you on time, and it all works out according to the forecast, but that is what those previous items are. And then I can do some other grouping up here, bank group, bank site, just depending how I want to look at this. So if you could look at sites instead of companies, and I would see the banking position or the activity within each company. But so here is my sites now broken out. So I have my NA11, NA12, NA13, and I can see those banking positions for each company. And that's usually when you're looking at site is because you have different bank accounts for each site possibly. But if you're just using one bank account for the entire company, you're probably going to look at this at the company level. So that kind of wraps up my presentation on this tool. As you see, it's a pretty easy tool to set up. We just have to go and create our cash forecast type, set up our default bank account, schedule a job to run every night, enter our manual adjustments on a monthly, quarterly basis, and then I can start using the cash analysis. So thanks for watching. Hope this was useful. This was Tom.